What a show today is going to be. I mean, there's so much to talk about. I'm so excited. You've seen the meme with the little girl. She's like, I, you know, I look at promos for Thursday Night Football and what a game it's going to be. We're going to talk about that, preview that game. I'm going to give you my prediction for that game. And I look at promos for Bills versus Rams, and I can't believe that that's literally tomorrow. It's finally here. I feel like that guy on Coming to America when Prince Akeem goes to the bathroom at halftime of the basketball game, and he runs into one of his subservient constituents of Zamunda as he's going to the bathroom, and he drops to his knees and he pulls his hat off and he says, "I cannot believe it. It is you." That's how I feel about the NFL season. I cannot believe it. It is you. Well, it's about to be here, and we're going to talk about that. College football was bananas over the weekend. I gave you homework. Manti Te'o documentary. I binge watched all of Hard Knocks. I'm ready to talk about it. So much more coming your way. LouieTeeNetwork podcast starts now. Who else could it be but me? Your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 288th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Wow, what a weekend it was. And it was a long weekend. My weekend started on Thursday night. I can't recall the last time I had that much time off. Literally, I told you guys, I want to say I did a podcast on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. That's the last time we spoke. And I said, hey, I don't think I'm doing anything on Friday. And I didn't do anything on Friday. I didn't do anything on Saturday or Sunday or Monday. And, my wife was out of school on Friday. So we started the weekend early on Thursday night. And she was also off for Labor Day, which probably most of you were as well, on Monday. So literally, it was a 4-day weekend, tack on Thursday night, and it was a fiesta. Woo! It was good, man. I enjoyed myself, got a lot of rest. It would have been nice if there were no kids, but look, you can't have your cake and eat it too, okay? And I'm okay with that. I feel good about my weekend. I'm well rested. I'm ready to attack this NFL season with vigor. It's right around the corner, as I mentioned at the top of the show. I cannot wait. Bart Scott can't wait for that Thursday night football kickoff. What a game it's going to be. We will talk about that at the very end of the show. I'll give you my thoughts on that particular game and what I think the outcome is ultimately going to be. When we get to social media maneuvers, there's so much I want to talk about. I want to talk about college football that I watched over the weekend. I want to talk about I was wrong about Notre Dame, okay? And I got some things to say about the Fighting Irish. I watched a couple of ridiculous games over the weekend from college football. I gave you guys homework, Manti Te'o documentary, Untold. I binge watched at least 3 or 4 of those Untold episodes because I'm a massive Untold fan. They had this series last year, and I watched one where they were betting on college games. A couple of students at, I want to say, Arizona State were betting on their games at Arizona State. And so that's a really great series. And I told you guys to watch the Manti Te'o documentary. We would talk about it. I told you I was going to take care of Hard Knocks, watched all 5 episodes of that. So we can discuss that today as well and clean up any other loose ends of the offseason before we turn our attention to the season. Because once football it officially starts and we start talking about NFL games and action on the field, I don't care about any of that other shit that was happening this offseason. Okay. All that shit is going to be put on the back burner and we'll pick it up next February. I just want to talk about stuff on the field. So we're going to clean up everything, tie up all loose ends, and we're going to do it on today's show. So with that said, let's jump right into the proceedings this evening. Well, let me say one thing. I don't know if my guy, Twin D, is out there, okay, or not. Twin D, are you with me? Okay, I don't know if you're with me out there, Twin D. Twin D, are you with me? Oh, yeah, my Braves, they're here, ain't going nowhere. My Braves are tied with the New York Mets. We made a bet. I don't know if you out there, Twin D. I know you hear those footsteps, okay? I know you hear those footsteps. I keep hearing footsteps, baby, in the dark. Oh, in the dark. You hear the footsteps, okay? It's these world champs beating down your door right here, man. Here we come. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the gym dropping session today, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So I want to knock down all of the stories that we missed. I just talked about how long it's been since we have congregated. And I want to talk about all of the stories that have hit the news wire and address them as it leads us right into week 1 of the National Football League. So Joe Flacco, my guy Joe. He's going to start for the Jets week 1. We kind of saw this coming once Zach Wilson injured himself in the first preseason game versus the Philadelphia Eagles. However, there was this outside chance that Zach Wilson would be ready for week 1. There were talks of him, starting to start football activities again. And there was this outside chance. Don't count him out. He may start week 1. No, he's not. He's not going to start against the Ravens on Sunday. That distinction will go to Joe Flacco. And if you believe reports coming out of Jets camp, Joe Flacco has been the better of the 2 quarterbacks all camp long and gives them the best chance to win right now. I don't doubt that. I've been really disappointed in Zach Wilson. He's still, it's still early. He's still young. I'm not going to quit on him. I'm not giving up on him. But, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. That's one thing. And remember, he was small coming out of BYU. One of the knocks on him is he's very small, not like 6 feet like some of these other guys, but because Sam Howell is 6 feet, but Sam Howell is also thick. Baker Mayfield is 6 feet, but Baker Mayfield is also thick. There's a difference between being skinny and being, tall, or being, short, but being stout and thick. And that's what those other guys are. That's not what Zach Wilson was. And that was one of the concerns. He had injury concerns coming out of BYU, and he's had some injuries in his first 2 seasons in the league. But now it went from, hey, Zach might be ready week 1 to, hey, we're not going to see Zach until at a bare minimum week 4. So, okay. Maybe there's a little bit more there than they're leading on. They probably just want to make sure he's fully healthy before he comes back, because again, he's the future of that franchise. You don't want to keep yo-yoing him in and out. I'm always one to err on the side of caution with important players. I don't want this guy in and out of the lineup. I said the same thing about Curtis Samuel last year. Just sit him down. They should have put him on the PUP list instead of trying to yo-yo him back in and out of the lineup and ultimately have him only play in 3 games. They don't want to do that with Zach Wilson. He's too important to the outcome of not only this season, but this organization moving forward. So I understand the logic behind that. Emmanuel Sanders, E-Man San calls it a career. And what a career it was. He was one of my favorite wide receivers in the league, not just for what he did on the field, but also what he was as a mentor to a lot of young receivers around the league. I really was a huge Emmanuel Sanders fan, and the way he played the game, I thought he really was one of those guys. You see players come into the league and grow as players. To me, he was one of those guys that he just continually got better. Even as he got older, his game aged well, and that's why he was able to hang around for as long as he did. And so he signed a 1-day contract and retired a Denver Bronco, did Emmanuel Sanders. Really, really happy for him. And there may be post-career work in the NFL because he's well-spoken, and I think he gets it. So after 12 years of dedication to this league, Emmanuel Sanders calls it a career, and I couldn't be happier for E-Man San. Let's see. So I haven't read this story. I don't know if any of you have read this story. Inside Russ's Seattle Seahawks breakup. I would love to know what's in there. I'm going to read that thing. Usually when you get these kind of juicy stories right before the season start, they're usually must, read type of literature. I'm going to get into that at some point. And that thing was bubbling. Beyond, you remember, Russ had talked about, wanting more control, feeling like, the regime of Pete Carroll and John Schneider was starting to get a little bit old and crusty. And remember, he talked about, them needing to fix the offensive line. He was tired of, he watched what the Chiefs did for Mahomes and what Brady was able to do going to Tampa, calling his own shots essentially and getting things done and winning a championship. And he felt like he wasn't getting the just due in Seattle. That was before, he got traded. That was going into the 2021 season that occurred. And then they finally moved him in this offseason. So this thing was bubbling for a number of years. I feel like, can't wait to read that article there. Let's see. Lamar's deal isn't imminent. Peter King had been talking about this for weeks now, that it didn't seem like a deal would get done, but we'll see what happens with Lamar. I've already said that this was going to be one of the most interesting contract negotiations we've ever seen, because he doesn't have an agent. And Lamar is, I think, really heavy on the guarantees for this next deal that he's going to sign. And I don't know. We've heard reports that he wants a fully guaranteed deal like the one Deshaun Watson got. And remember, that was one of those deals that really frustrated a lot of general managers, owners, and league executives, because of the amount of guaranteed money and how it was structured and how that was going to set a bad precedence for other guys coming down the pipeline wanting deals. Well, so far, that hasn't been the case. Russell Wilson's new deal, that wasn't fully guaranteed. It was right in that neighborhood of the Kyler Murray deal in terms of guaranteed money. The Kyler Murray deal, again, right around in that 160, some odd $1 million in guarantees on a $230 million deal. So that wasn't fully guaranteed. And so that hasn't been the trend, guys getting fully guaranteed deals. That was a one-off there with Deshaun Watson. But Lamar's like, nah, actually, it's not a one-off, because I want one of those things. Let me get one of those. And the Ravens are like, bro, we can't fully guarantee you a contract. Come on, man, work with us. And so I don't know if Lamar's actually asking for a fully guaranteed contract, or if he's asking for 80 or 90% of the contract to be fully guaranteed. What is certain is that he's asking for things that the Ravens aren't comfortable giving him at this current moment. And Lamar has already set a deadline for the deal to get done, and that's the start of the regular season. Once the season starts, he doesn't want to talk about the contract, isn't interested in working out a deal. And then you go into the offseason. I've said that this thing looks like it's heading towards Kirk Cousins territory. And remember, the Ravens brass, Bisciotti and company, have already made mention of the fact that this seems like it's going down the Kirk Cousins road. And they're not really comfortable going down that road. But if they have to, they will, because what choice do they have? I mean, I've heard so many asinine comments about, well, maybe they should go with Tyler Huntley. He's got a similar skill set. Tyler Huntley isn't Lamar Jackson. Can we just stop that, please? Can we just stop that? I mean, seriously, can we just stop? Anyway, I digress. So Lamar's deal isn't imminent. I don't think they're going to get a deal done before the start of the season. Speaking of deals, Dawson Knox, tight end, who I loved coming out of Ole Miss. I thought that was one of the best tight end drafts at the time. I'd love to go back and look at that. And maybe the next time we throw it back, I'll go looking at that particular draft. I want to say it was the 2019 draft, if I'm not mistaken. And it was just so many tight ends. And a lot of those dudes didn't work out the way that I thought. Now, it was TJ Hawkinson, and he's worked out. It was his teammate, Noah Fant. He's worked out. Dawson Knox was a guy that I loved. He's worked out. And here's the proof, getting a 4-year extension with the Bills on a $53.6 million deal, 31 of which is fully guaranteed for the young budding tight end for the Buffalo Bills. I love Dawson Knox, and I like the trajectory of his career to this point. And the Bills obviously do too. And this is proof of that. Jay Sternberger was in that draft. He's been an absolute disappointment, bounced around the league. I thought he was going to be beautiful for the Green Bay Packers. Did not work out there. Hasn't found a home. He's probably one step from being out of the league at this point. So I was disappointed in him. And there's some other guys in there at the tight end position that I probably was really high on, and they haven't panned out in that draft. But anyway, Knox, not one of them. He gets to the bag. Another story to talk about. The Bills open as Super Bowl favorites. They're plus 600 to start the season off. So essentially what that means for those of you who aren't gamblers, and I'm not a big gambler, I'm not going to try to act as if I am, but plus 600 means you'd have to bet $600 to win 100 bucks. Okay. So they're plus 600. That's the highest odds to win the Super Bowl. And they're the Super Bowl favorites for the first time since 1991. That goes all the way back to the heyday of the Buffalo Bills when they went to four, count them, four. We talked about this on the podcast last week, four straight AFC Super Bowls, in a row. And so I've said this already multiple times this offseason. Who's better than the Buffalo Bills? And I get it. There are a lot of, and I've had conversations with so many different, fans, especially Eagles fans who are out of their damn minds, who want to think that their roster is the best. No, there's no roster in the league better than the Bills. I've already said this. And you can make the case that if the Eagles had a better quarterback, then they'd be right up in that conversation. You're damn right you would, but you don't. You have Jalen Hurts, so shut your mouth, right? However, the Eagles have a good roster, but it's not better than the Bills roster. To me, top to bottom, the Buffalo Bills have the most depth. They have the most frontline talent, and I don't think it's close. They're head and shoulders above most teams in the league, and as long as they're relatively healthy, they're going to be tough to beat. If Josh Allen continues on the path that he's heading, which is league MVP, they're going to be tough to beat because their roster is complete top to bottom. Anyway, they're Super Bowl favorites to start the season off. We'll see if they live up to it. Larry Fitzgerald, it's funny because his retirement was so obscure, kind of like his career. He kept a low profile. You didn't hear much from him. He let his, play on the field do the talking for him. He wasn't a guy that, was very boisterous during his career, wasn't a diva wide receiver, which is probably why he was so endeared to many around the league, especially Arizona Cardinals fans. He's playing with so many different quarterbacks, never complaining about the fact that he never really had a true guy until he got to, Kurt Warner and Carson Palmer. So he's actually going to join Monday Night Countdown and be a part of their coverage. That's interesting, and I know he's capable of doing it, but it's just weird to think of Larry in that light because you rarely heard from Larry. Larry wasn't a guy doing a ton of commercials. He had a few, but he wasn't a bunch of them. And he wasn't a guy that said much during his career. And even his retirement was just like hush. Like, is Larry coming back? I don't think he is. And we just didn't hear from him. Anyway, he'll be on Monday Night Countdown. Interesting. I wonder if that means that Randy Moss won't be. Usually there isn't space for two guys of the same position on the telecast. Like it's either one or the other. It'll be interesting to see if that means Randy Moss is going to be doing something else. Anyway, I digress. Did you guys see the Chase Young report? I'm going to talk so much about this on the Commanders nightly news tonight on the CNN live, but just to kind of gloss over this thing, there was this conflicting report about Chase Young and his ACL injury and whether he went out to Von Miller's pass rushing camp this offseason. We saw the pictures of him working out with Von Miller, right? So a lot of people just assume, oh yeah, he was there. No, that was a separate workout. That was just a little, we're out here shooting the shit, showing you how to use your hands. That wasn't the actual pass rushing academy that Von Miller puts on a yearly basis. And so a lot of people just ran with the story, including this clown, Mike Jurecki from the Arizona Cardinals beat writing. He's also an NFL writer as well. And so I don't know if this guy, slapped down 5 stacks on, the under on Washington's total this season, and he decided to try to throw a monkey wrench in a few days before the start of the regular season. I don't know what his agenda was, but he decided he wanted to come all the way from the West Coast and get in some East Coast shit. And I'm like, bitch, stay in your lane, stay out there. Worry about Kyler Murray and can he live up to his contract? Worry about, DeAndre Hopkins getting 6 games. Worry about the Arizona Cardinals and they'll be on Hard Knocks. Do that shit out there. Stay out of our business. You worry about what you got going on out there. Anyway, seems like his shit is erroneous. And I felt really comfortable with all of the information that was coming out, even when he was doubling down, tripling down on his shit. He's since deleted his posts. Go figure, because your shit is out of whack, and it's not accurate. But all the beat writers here who live, eat, breathe, sleep this team were like, nah, man, that shit ain't true. So I never was buying the hype. And like my guy Ron Rivera likes to say, interesting versus important. This shit is not important at all. This shit is interesting because he's not playing football regardless. So it's not interesting or important, rather. It's interesting, but I'll talk more about it tonight. Let's see. Did we miss anything else? Let's see. I think that's Steelers named Mitchell Trubisky QB1 to kick off the season. I thought he earned it. Kenny Pickett was coming on like gangbusters. He had a tremendous preseason, and that's what you want to see from your young quarterback. When you draft a guy, look, you can't tell if a guy's good or not by preseason ball. You can't tell if a guy's going to tear it up in the league by what he does in the preseason. But what you can tell is if it's too big for him initially. You can tell if a guy's struggling with the speed of the game, processing the offense, understanding what the defense is trying to do to him, things of that nature. That didn't seem to be the case for Kenny Pickett. Now, I will also mention this. He wasn't playing against the ones very often, if at all, during the preseason. He was coming in mop-up duty. I don't give a shit, okay? Those second and third string guys are still better than anything he saw while he was at Pitt in the ACC, slinging it around and tearing it up there. So at the end of the day, still got to come out and do it. He did it at a high level, high enough for them to demote Mason Rudolph from QB2 to QB3 and promote Kenny Pickett to QB2. He made it interesting. He pushed Mitchell Trubisky, but I thought Trubisky responded when he was out there on the field. He moved the offense, scored a couple of touchdowns, thought he looked good, and he earned the right to be called QB1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, again, how long is he going to remain there? How long is that leash? Because, again, Kenny Pickett, he's knocking at the damn door. If I'm Mitchell Trubisky, I make sure that bitch is locked. I'm not going to the door. I'm not looking through the peephole. I know who the hell is on the other side of that door. Don't open this shit up, because once you do, you're not getting your job back. So I think Mitchell Trubisky earned this right. We'll see how long he's able to hold off Kenny Pickett, but he is QB1, the first quarterback to start in the post-Ben Roethlisberger era for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think that is it on the news that we had over the weekend. And I meant to mention this. I think the Cowboys signed Jason Peters, right? Remember, we talked about Tyron Smith and the injury he sustained, and it more likely than not is a season-ending injury, but they keep talking about he may be ready to come back in December. They signed Jason Peters. That's a Band-Aid. He's 40 years old. He's had issues staying healthy himself. He actually played the vast majority of the games last year for the Chicago Bears, but his best football way behind him. So I think where he actually benefits the Cowboys is the impact that he can have on Trey Smith, their first-round pick out of Tulsa that they drafted to be the future left tackle in Dallas. I don't believe in him as a tackle. I think he's a guard, but if they think he's a tackle, I think Jason Peters might be the perfect mentor for him at the very end of his career. So that's what the Cowboys did there as a response to losing their left tackle, Tyron Smith, potentially for the entire season. And I meant to mention this when I talked about Gruden and Mayock and the failed draft picks on the last episode of the podcast. John Gruden wants back into the NFL. Did you see that? He's like, I deserve another shot. Bro, it ain't happening. First of all, before all of this shit came out, I won't say that your tenure in Oakland/Vegas was a disaster, because it wasn't, but it wasn't great either. But they did go to the playoffs last year. I have to give him that. He wasn't there for that, though, right? They did that in spite of him. He's still stuck in the 90s. And until that changes, I don't think he's fit to run an NFL team. That said, he definitely can't be in control of personnel anymore. That ship has sailed. No one would ever give him that opportunity again. But just to be the coach, first of all, he's done. With everything that was in that email, or those emails rather, And what's out there, he's done. He's going to be blackballed, and it's over for him. But hey, he's like, hey, you guys know I'm a good guy, and you might be a good guy, dude. It's over though. Let it go. All right, you made some good money. ESPN paid you a ton of money when you were done as a coach. You had a good run the first time as a coach. Won a Super Bowl with the Bucks. Had a nice little run. Raiders 10 years, $100 million. I don't know how much of that money you actually saw, but it was a nice piece of change that you ended up walking away with. Just it's over, bro. You know, if you really want to coach that bad, go to the collegiate ranks. Somebody will give you a job there. If you want it that bad, go to the college football game. But you're not coming back to the NFL. I can tell you that right now. It's over. Anyway, I digress. So, with that said, let's transition to social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. You know what it is. You already know what it is. I want to talk about college football first before we transition to the homework that I gave you and Hard Knocks and all of those things. I want to first start by talking about college football over the weekend. So it was week 1 in college football. Remember, the previous week was week 0. That was trash. I didn't watch any of it. This is what I was waiting for. Week 1 of the college football slate. I want to first start by saying that they did a poor job of taking advantage of what felt like the longest weekend, Labor Day weekend in history. If I'm college football, you don't have to play 87 games on Saturday, 1 game on Sunday, 1 game on Monday. Like, to me, that's dumb. You got all of this real estate, no NFL to have to compete with, nothing else really on TV. It's your weekend to yourself. You know, if anybody wants to go watch baseball, go knock yourself out. If anybody's watching WNBA playoffs, please have at it. You watching tennis, great for you. But college football is on if it's on, right? For most people. And here it is, Saturday, you play 972 games, 1 on Sunday, which was Florida State. It was actually a really good finish, Florida State and LSU. And then 1 on Monday, which was an abject disaster in Clemson and Georgia Tech. There should have been at least a bare minimum of 3 games on each of those 2 days, where you should have had a game on at like, 2:30, 3:30, if you want to keep with the regular college football schedule. Should have been a game on at 3:30, then another one on at 7:30, and then one to finish up at 10:30 at night. Like, you should have milked those days. I thought that was a wasted opportunity. But anyway, I digress. Let's go back to Saturday. What a crazy day of college football it was. I want to start with Appalachian State and North Carolina. So that's an intra-state rivalry. For those of you who don't know, Appalachian State is in Boone, North Carolina, not that far away from where the Blue Bloods reside, right up in that, Tobacco Road area. And so there's a rivalry there, right? This was one of the zaniest games I've ever seen in my life, and I've watched a lot of football. Okay, way too much for any human being at this point. And I hope I've got a lot more life to live and more football to consume, but I've watched a ton of football. This was one of the craziest games. First of all, the amount of points scored in the fourth quarter alone in this game, stupid. Okay, there were 62 points scored in the fourth quarter. 40 of them by Appalachian State themselves. The first time in college football history a team has scored 6 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Let me say that again. The first time in college football history a team has scored 6 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They scored 40 points by themselves in the fourth quarter. North Carolina scored 22 in the fourth quarter. Unbelievable. But it was that last sequence of possessions that blew my mind. And I'm sitting there watching this thing and I'm yelling, and my wife is like, what is going on? What are you watching? I had 3 screens up. I had the TV on, I had another TV, and then I had my computer monitor in front of me. And so I had all 3 TVs going. And this one was on the smallest monitor, right? On my little laptop in front of me. And I couldn't take my eyes off of it. It didn't matter too, because Georgia was destroying Oregon. We'll get to that one in a second. And there was also Cincinnati, which was another top, 25 game that I told you about, Cincinnati and Arkansas. That was on the other monitor. But I couldn't take my eyes off of this one. And so North Carolina takes the lead. It's 49-49. Tie ball game. Okay. They were up big too, mind you. Obviously, they scored 40 in the fourth quarter, and they're not winning by 3 touchdowns. Something's up. So they were down big. And they rally back. They tie this thing up at 49 apiece. And they send an all-out blitz, and everybody forgets to cover the running back. He goes up the field, loft job to him. He could walk to the end zone backwards if he wanted to. All right. And so he walks into the end zone. It's 56-49. And that gave Carolina the lead with like 2 minutes and some change left. And Appalachian State's got the football, and they're driving down the field. They're doing it very methodically, so much so that I don't know if they were even aware of how the game was going. It's 4th and 8. The quarterback gets hit as he's throwing a football. It's incomplete. North Carolina looks like they're about to win this game. They throw a late flag they call pass interference, and it was pass interference. So there's 34 seconds left. Appalachian State's got 2 timeouts remaining. They're at the North Carolina 37-yard line, and they run the football. What are you doing? What are you doing? They get a gain of 2 or 3, and they call a time. Are you stupid? What are you doing? And on the very next play, their quarterback, Bryce, throws a dime on a corner route to the receiver. And I'm like, Carolina, how could you? Well, they've already given up 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. So, again, why would you think they were going to get a stop? So they give up the touchdown. And now it's, the score at this point is 48-49, if I'm not mistaken. Or it might have been 55-56. I think it was 55-56 at this point. Yeah, it was. And so, yes, because it was 49-49 when Carolina scored the touchdown to go up 56-49. They scored this touchdown. Now it's 55-56 or 56-55, and they're going for 2. They said, to hell with it. 21 seconds left. We're going to go ahead, go for 2, go for the win. They run a beautiful play. They send the receiver in motion. He comes across the formation. They snap the ball. He goes out into the flats, and they put the end on that side of the field in between a rock and a hard place. You're going to run with this receiver, or you're going to stop the quarterback from jaunting into the end zone. He takes the quarterback, and the quarterback, all he's got to do is just loft this thing to the receiver. And he puts a little bit too much on it, but if the receiver doesn't turn and backpedal, it's a catch. But because he's so wide open, he turns because that ball was over the wrong shoulder, but it didn't matter. If he just keeps running, he's going to locate the ball and catch it, and it's a touchdown. But he turns and backpedals because he's so wide open, and the ball goes over his head. It's incomplete, and Carolina's going to hold on 56-55, or so we thought. Onside kick, okay? Carolina catches this thing on a dead sprint, and instead of going down, Appalachian State only has 1 timeout. There's 18 seconds left. If you fall down, this game is over. He takes off, and apparently he's never touched the football a day in his life. So he's in college. He's excited. The ball comes to him. He's like, I'm not falling down. I'm scoring a touchdown. Mama, I'm on TV. Y'all see me? I'm on TV. I scored a touchdown. They kick the extra point. The 2 announcers, okay, lose their minds for a second, and they're talking about it's a 2-score game. I'm like, guys, hey, woo-hoo, can you do math? It was a 1-point game. They just scored a touchdown. They tacked on the extra point. It's an 8-point game. This thing is not over. And I'm thinking the analyst, so former player, was the one that made the comment that, the extra point would make it a 2-score game. And they were downplaying him scoring a touchdown. Like, dude, he made a mistake. He shouldn't have scored. He falls down anywhere on the playing field, not, where the thick white line is, followed by paint with the team's logo. If he falls anywhere but there, this game's over. But instead, he scored a touchdown, and you dummies are making it seem like it's inconsequential because it's a 9-point game. There's nothing that App State can do. And I'm waiting for the play-by-play man to jump in there and say, hey, wait a minute, partner. It's a 1-score game. It's only 8. And he's going along with this clown that's talking about it's a 9-point game. And I'm like, you dum-dums, okay? At some point, they realize, oh, shit, it's only 8. I just did the math. Good for you. Probably one of the producers getting in their ear and saying, hey, guys, Newsflash, it's an 8-point game. This is a 1-score game. This game's not over. And to make matters worse, North Carolina on that touchdown got a penalty for excessive celebration. So you tack on the 15-yard penalty. No, it was a block. No, it wasn't a block because it was after the play was over, which is why the touchdown counted. So they get a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for the excessive celebration. So App State takes that penalty on the kickoff. So instead of them kicking off from the 35 like they normally would, they're kicking off from the 20. So their return man, who's already dangerous, catches that bad boy at around the 7 or 10, and he returns it out to midfield. He's like one guy away from breaking this thing. I'm like, North Carolina, what are you? Oh my God, you're trying to lose this game. So now there's 14 seconds left. And App State has one timeout. And the first play, quarterback rolls out to his right, throws a BB to a wide open receiver who's standing at the 30-yard line with nobody around. And he catches it, falls out of bounds, 20-yard gain, stops the clock. Now there's 8 seconds. And I'm like, this is crazy. And then on the next play, this guy just runs a simple post right up the damn seam, and he throws a dart to him, touchdown. I'm like, oh my God, you want to lose this game. North Carolina, you want to lose this game. And so they have to go for 2 now because they're down 8. And they run the exact same play that they had for the 2-point the last time when they blew it. This time, however, they switch on the guy coming in motion. So he's not wide ass open. He still could have thrown it to him if he wanted to, but he wasn't as open. Quarterback decides he's going to take it himself. The guy on the outside who had to choose between the running with the receiver or trying to stop the quarterback who has outside contained, he really actually over pursued because the quarterback cut inside of him, but he had strong hands. And when that quarterback cut inside of him, he grabbed him like his life depended on it and didn't let him go until his teammate came and he walloped the quarterback. The ball came out, it's a fumble, and North Carolina held on for a crazy 63. I want to say it was 63-61 victory. It was fantastic. Okay. Georgia destroyed Oregon. That was a no doubter. I tweeted this out. Bo Nix is trash. My God, is he bad. I got something else to talk about. Don't let me forget. I'm going to put a pin in this. Don't let me forget to talk about transfers in college football. Shit's out of control. But Bo Nix, transferred from Auburn. He's now at Oregon. Man, he was running from the SEC. Got his ass whooped by Georgia. Man, he stinks. Anyway, that's not the story of that game. The story of that game was Stetson Bennett. What the hell? Stetson Bennett looks like he's been in college for 6 years, that he's 24 years old, and he's got full command of that Georgia offense. Oh, wait, Stetson Bennett is 24 years old. He has been in college football for 6 years. Damn, Stetson Bennett looked like, I tweeted this out, he looked like Stetson Stafford out there for the Georgia Bulldogs. He could do no wrong. I mean, he was just doing whatever the hell he wanted to do against that Oregon defense, which is crazy because if anybody should be able to stop Stetson Bennett, it'd be the ex-Georgia defensive coordinator who's now the head coach at Oregon, but he had no answers. It was a shit show. Georgia steamrolled Oregon, and they look like they're poised to be right in the mix again when it's all said and done. We'll see what happens as they get into SEC play. Another game that I want to talk about, Notre Dame and Ohio State. If you weren't a fan of the two teams involved, then it could have been a bit of a snooze fest. It wasn't a super entertaining game. I was at the edge of my seat because I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan, and I was expecting us to get our doors blown off. My biggest takeaway from this game isn't the outcome of the game or anything like that. It's that our coach, Freeman, he's the right man for the job. Marcus Freeman, those players responded to him. I did not expect them to come out. And I think this game says more about Ohio State and less about Notre Dame. I think it says that, hey, Marcus Freeman is legit. I think we got the right guy, and I'm happy about that. But I think it also says Ohio State's overrated. And I know it's one game, and it's better to get a team like Ohio State in week 1 than to play them, in week 6 when they're clicking on all cylinders and they're into a rhythm. They haven't played anybody else, and I understand all of those variables, but I've said that CJ Stroud is good, but he's an Ohio State quarterback. And until somebody overcomes that stigma, I just look at him like he's Dwayne Haskins. Hey, that's cool. You break all these records, throw to a receiver for 300 yards in that Rose Bowl game, Smith and Jigba and all of that stuff. That's cool. You're still an Ohio State quarterback. You still play in an offense that's quarterback friendly. And until you actually go to the NFL and do it, and he did not look sharp. And they took one guy away, which was Smith. And that's one thing. Notre Dame was hitting, man. Those boys were hitting out there. They lit his ass up, hurt his leg. They lit up a running back, took him out pretty much. They were out there hitting, man. They weren't playing with those boys. And so I had to give them credit defensively. They were ready to play, but I knew our offense was going to stink. Tyler Buckner stinks. They were treating him like he hadn't played a single college football game in his life. This guy was here last year, and they had the training wheels on him. It's 3rd and 8. We're running quarterback draws. We get a big gain on the very first possession of the game, and they get into the red zone, and they run it 3 straight times, won't even let the man throw the football. I mean, that was an omen. If I saw one, like, okay, we're not trying to win this game. We're just trying not to get blown out of this game. So the offense was exactly what I thought it was going to be. I was actually pleasantly surprised by the defense. But again, some of that was Ohio State's doing as well. But to hang in there and only lose 21-10, kudos to Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. I think that's a good start to his regime in Notre Dame. Meanwhile, if I'm Ohio State, I'm not confident. I will just tell you this. Michigan looked good against Colorado State, but I'm not sold on McNamara, their quarterback. I think he stinks. And so if you're Ohio State, I think you have a chance to beat Michigan, but you're going to have to play way better than you played in this game. And Smith and Jigba has to be fine because clearly we saw you take him out of the game and the rest of those receivers are not ready to be on that stage yet. And I thought their running backs, they talked about all these guys, especially that one running back. I can't recall his name right now, but he's supposed to be in the Heisman. He was a non-factor in that game. I actually was afraid of number 2 more than I was 32 in that ball game. So anyway, I digress. How about the Sunday night game? I don't want to leave out Florida and Utah. Utah was ranked, I think, 14th or something like that, 11, 14. And they went to the Swamp, take on the Gators. And AR-15, look, a lot of people, he is a lightning rod. If you are an NFL fan and you like watching quarterback prospects, I've seen people on one side of the fence that think this guy's got all the talent in the world to be a top 10 pick. And I've seen other people that think he stinks, thinks he's a runner. He's not accurate as a passer. He's got too many mechanical issues, and they don't think he's a guy that's going to be making that transition well to the next level. Wherever you sit on that fence, I'm not here to debate that. I just know the young man played his ass off, made some big time plays. And when they needed him most, he stepped up, took them down the field into the end zone, and they upset Utah in week 1 of the college football season. And he put his name in that Heisman Trophy discussion. Again, it's 1 week. All right. And one of his biggest issues last year was staying healthy, but that's a good start. That's a good start for Anthony Richardson of the Florida Gators. Then you go to Sunday. So you get into Florida State and LSU. And I'm not going to lie to you. I turned this game off midway through the 3rd quarter because it was boring. Like the first half was trash. I could see very quickly we were dealing with 2 quarterbacks that weren't going to impact this game in a major way. The kid from LSU, his first initial response to any kind of look that he didn't like was, I'm going to just tuck this bitch and run. And so my wife was like, is he going to throw the ball? Is he just going to run this shit all night? I'm like, look, I can't help you there. Okay. I can only tell you that I'm pretty sure they're calling pass plays and he's just tucking it and running. And then the guy, Travis, who's been there at Florida State for a little while, he looked okay, but he wasn't a needle mover by, any stretch of the imagination. And so it was like 10-7 at halftime. And I'm like, this is so ho-humish. So I checked out. And then this epic, and I checked back in score-wise, not actually turning the game on. Excuse me, when it was 24-17. And I think LSU was at the Florida State 49, but it was only like 24 seconds. I was like, okay, they're going to lose. So I didn't turn the game on. And then my wife says, they scored a touchdown. I'm like, who scored a touchdown? She's like, LSU. I was like, oh, well, turn the game on. She's like, well, it's over. I'm like, what do you mean it's over? They scored a touchdown, kicked extra points, tie game. What are you talking about? It's over. She's like, no, it got blocked. It got the extra point got blocked. And I remember watching the game earlier, and they had blocked the field goal kick, but that one was from like 47 or whatever. Anyway, I had to go back and watch that entire, fourth quarter, and see what the hell was going on. And what in the hell? Florida State giving it up, letting them get in there, and then turning around and getting your extra point. I thought that was the perfect way to end Brian Kelly's first game at LSU, because I'm not a Brian Kelly fan. I thought he jerked Notre Dame around. I think he's a phony. Like, how players always say you can tell if a guy is, genuine or not, and players can sense that. Well, Brian Kelly doesn't have to worry about that because he's not coaching the same guys for 8 years. He's coaching these guys for 3-4 years, and they're getting out of there, and you're turning it over, and the roster is constantly turning over, which is why if you're a college guy, you need to stay in college, because pro guys, adult men, they can smell your bullshit, right? And Brian Kelly's got an odor emitting from him that you can smell 3 states away. He's so fake. You saw the fake accent. Like, this guy's a joke. He's a fake. He's a phony. I never liked him at Notre Dame, but he won. But I knew he wasn't going to win anything of substance because it's Notre Dame. That had nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with, you just can't get the kind of athletes that are going to allow you to beat the big ACC or, the big SEC programs. You're just not going to get those types of athletes. You can beat the Pac-12 athletes. You can beat some of these Big Ten teams. You're not beating Alabama. You're not beating LSU. You're not beating Georgia with the kind of athletes you're getting at Notre Dame. You're not going to beat Ohio State, all right, with the athletes you're getting at Notre Dame. This isn't 1993. We're not getting Tim Brown. We're not getting Rocket Ismail. We're not getting Jerome Bettis anymore. Those guys don't go to Notre Dame. Those guys go to Alabama. Those guys go to Georgia. Those guys go to Florida, okay? Those guys go to teams and programs that are going to allow them to be on that stage. And Notre Dame, while we get some good athletes, you want to come to Notre Dame? Come to Notre Dame for an offensive lineman. Come to Notre Dame for a tight end. And we'll even sprinkle in the occasional safety. Every now and again, we'll give you a little linebacker too. But they usually don't pan out at the NFL level. We don't give you receivers, okay? The last good one we had was Chase Claypool, okay? But those are rare. Miles Boykins gets in there. He hasn't done a damn thing in the league. We don't do receivers. We don't do running backs, really. We damn sure don't do quarterbacks. Can't tell you the last time we had a pro-ready NFL quarterback. The last guy to even look like he had a chance came out after 1 year and wet the bed as a Cleveland Brown. Anyway, that finish was crazy. They got a lot of work to do, does Florida State, but they're 2-0. Got to give Mike Norvell credit. They're 2-0, but it shouldn't have come down to a blocked extra point. That shouldn't have happened. And Clemson, I'm just going to say this. Yeah, they won 41-10. They don't look unbeatable. DJ Uiagalelei, I'm just going to tell you right now, he's not the guy that they thought he was going to be. He looks scared. He looks indecisive. He lost all that weight. Still, I don't see much of a difference from a pocket presence standpoint. Yeah, he's an athlete and he can run, and that might help him in that department, but he still looks shell-shocked back there. So I think Clemson could be in some trouble. If their schedule is tough enough with enough bumps in the road, you're not playing Georgia Tech again, okay? Their offense is hideous. They have no playmakers, so they knew they could get away with that foolishness last night. They could be in some trouble this year. Again, they weren't good last year, and I don't think they're going to be very good this year. We'll see. Anyway, I want to say this about college football before we move on. The transfer portal is out of control. I didn't realize how big of an epidemic it was until watching football over the weekend. And I remember, an article being written, and I glanced. I didn't read the article, but I glanced over the heading. And the title was something along the lines of, college football portal out of control. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. Because guys have been transferring for years, right? This isn't a new thing, or at least I thought. This is a new thing. Every single player on Florida State's roster, with the exception of maybe like 4 or 5 guys, transfers. Every game that I watched, there was a guy, there were 6 or 7, 12, 15, 20, upwards of 30 guys that every guy, this guy's a transfer from Arizona State. This guy's a transfer from this school. This guy's a transfer from there. I'm like, well, goddamn. Does anybody play in this program? Has anybody been in this program for multiple years? I mean, it's crazy. It's everybody. It's not just 1 or 2 schools. Everybody's got like 12 transfers on their team that are starting and playing significant snaps. Florida State was the absolute worst, though. It's crazy. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about Manti Te'o and the documentary Untold, the story of Manti Te'o being catfished. So for those of you who haven't watched this, spoiler alert, you might want to either put me on mute for about a good 5 to 7 minutes, or you could turn it off altogether. But I'm about to talk about this documentary. It's been out for long enough. If you haven't seen it, I can't help you. But I gave you homework. I told you to watch it. I had already seen it, and it was really good. And it was so complex. Like, there were so many different layers to this story that were just mind-boggling. And normally these untold documentaries are only one episode, and it's only like an hour and maybe 30 minutes or so. This one was so complex. There were so many layers that they had to do 2 episodes of like a buck and some change. So that just goes to show you just how much was involved in this thing, how intricate this plot was. So anyway, if you've never seen like Catfish, the show on MTV, or you're not familiar with it, some of these people go through great lengths to, tie their story together and make their appearance online seem like a reality. Normally catfishers are lazy. They set up a little Facebook page and connect a couple of people that are usually them, or, and they make it look like they're a real person, but they usually don't do a good enough job that they can't be found out. Like this dude, who is now a female and identifies as a woman, really, took this thing to another level. And it started out, him just trying to escape his existence as a man, wanting to be a female, but being in a very heavily guarded and religious family. It was hard for him. His father runs a church. Like, how can your father be the pastor of a church and his son's gay, or not gay, a transsexual? That's just, those 2 things don't match. So he was not living in his truth. So, creating a profile of a woman, which is what he wanted to be, was his way of escaping. And so he would find guys online, talk to them, and then when it would get serious and that guy would want to meet, he would end the relationship. Well, that didn't happen with Manti Te'o. And the crazy part was, because their backgrounds were sort of similar, even though, Te'o was from Hawaii, and I can't remember his name. Oh man, he was from California, but they had similar religious beliefs, similar backgrounds, kind of in that Samoan way of life. So because of those things, there was even a little connection where he knew Manti Te'o's cousin. And so he used that, and he was able to kind of finagle everything to make it make sense, to make Manti Te'o think that she was a real person, which had a legit picture, which, all these pictures with these catfishers are legit. But what's usually hard to do, because sometimes they're really lazy. They'll just go do a photo search and you'll find the picture that they took. It's a stock photo. But if you're creative enough, you'll find someone, and it's better if you know that person, which the dude actually knew this female. He went to school with her. So he was able to get, her photo, put it on Facebook, create this profile, all these people that are legit, that actually know her, and interweave that into the Facebook page. Then Te'o was like, yo, do you know this chick? And his cousin was like, yeah, I know her. And so he was like, okay, well, if my cousin says she's legit, then, even though I haven't met her, maybe she's legit. So they're carrying on this conversation. She gets in, or he gets in too deep because he was still a dude at the time. Gets in too deep with Manti Te'o, right? And now he can't like end it. And Manti wants to meet her. Like, all right, like, we're getting into the off season. And so he got scared. He freaked out. And the season was about to start. So when Manti was talking about coming out there, he says that the female got into a car accident. Like the person that was catfishing got into a car accident. And this is the part that really like shook me to my core, because Manti Te'o is such a religious dude. And, his dad was like, yo, do not do anything to embarrass this family. And his dad point blank asked him, this chick that you're talking to, have you met her before? And he's like, he lied to his dad. Like, yeah, I met her. And he was going off of the fact that his cousin was like, bro, I met her. She's a real person. And I think the name that he made it was something Lene, something like that. Anyway, so now she acts as if she's been in a car accident and she's on life support. And so two other figures in this story was her brother, which was her, which is him, and Renai was the name. His name was Renai, right? So Renai was acting as a brother, and then there was a cousin too, which Renai was acting as a cousin as well. So the crazy part that really shook me to my core was when he acted as if he got in the accident and Manti Te'o thinks he's talking to Lene on the phone, as he goes through these great lengths to have like a monitor beeping in the background. And he's like, calls as his brother and is like, hey, she can hear you. I'm gonna put in the phone to her ear. And he's talking to her. And he thinks that he's having an impact on her and helping her stay alive. And, he even goes to the extent of whispering like, Manti, like kind of like making it seem like she's coming to and all of this stuff. And you could see him getting choked up, like thinking, oh my God, I'm helping her pull through this. Like, you can't play with people like that. That's a cruel joke. Like, that goes beyond like regular catfishing. That's next level shit. So at that point, Manti thinks he's having this incredible impact. He tells his family about it. They're celebrating that, she comes to, right? And so, I mean, that is gross. That is grotesque, man. I mean, it is terrible, right? So then the season's about to start. And, Manti Te'o's starting to distance himself from her because he hasn't met her yet. He's got a lot of obligations going on. This guy could have gone to, remember, he could have foregone his senior season and went to the NFL, entered the draft. He decided to come back to school. And what he ended up embarking upon was one of the greatest single seasons by a defensive player in Notre Dame history. He ends up finishing second in the Heisman Trophy race. Notre Dame goes 12-0, plays in the national championship. They get destroyed by Alabama, but he has a banner season. And right before the season starts, his grandmother passes away. And on that same day, Renai decides to kill off Lene. And so this whole story about his girlfriend and his grandmother passing away on the same day, and him essentially dedicating the season to both of them, became a big story. And you know what I started thinking about when I was watching the documentary was like just how big of a deal it was that he went to Notre Dame, because here it is, this spiritual school, really religious Catholic school. Notre Dame is one of the, say what you want about Notre Dame, and I may bitch and complain about the caliber of athletes we get at Notre Dame, but it's still effing Notre Dame. It's still big business. It's still one of the biggest college football programs on the planet. And so couple Manti Te'o, who's the best player on that Notre Dame team, with the fact that he's playing for Notre Dame. Had he been playing at Louisiana Lafayette, this is not a story. Okay. We're not watching a Netflix documentary. If this was a guy on the roster at Florida Atlantic, okay, we're not having this discussion. All right. If he played at Furman, who cares? He got catfished. But we're talking about Manti Te'o, the best player on one of the best teams in college football that year at one of the biggest programs in the country at Notre Dame. And so those confluence of things coming together makes this thing a massive story. And people ran with that story. It took off and it grew to lengths that I don't think Manti Te'o even thought it would grow to. And that thing spread like wildfire. And he was sucking all of this up until he got that damn phone call from, and I remember, I think it was after a game against Stanford, which is in California. He met up with Renai, who was really Lene, the person that he thought he was dating. And he acted like the brother. And Lene had a little cousin, and she was acting as if that was her sister. So he brought his cousin, and Manti wanted to meet him. And so to kind of keep the story real, like after you killed her off, he could have left it alone. He could have said, all right, she's dead. He thinks she's dead and it's over. I'm moving on. He couldn't let go. So he goes and meets Manti Te'o in person. And then after the fact that they meet, and it's, that he just met Lene's brother and little sister, he then calls Manti on the phone and says, it's Lene. And he's like, man, stop playing with me. And he's like, no, it's Lene. And then he tells her to do a series of things to send him a photo of to prove that she's alive. And this is where shit gets crazy, because Renai was friends with the person's picture that he took the profile and created. So he was able to contact her and say, hey, and again, when you're a catfisher, you're a liar. So that means you have no problems lying to people. So he tells her, hey, I got, my brother's in the hospital, my sister's in the hospital, whatever he told her. And it would mean so much if you would take a picture of her and write these things on this piece of paper and send it to me. And so she did. And so once she got the picture, or he got the picture, he sent it to Manti Te'o. And now Manti Te'o's freaking out because he's like, yo, I just sent him, I told him a list of specific things that only if he's alive or she's alive, she could do. And she did them and sent me the damn photo. This shit is crazy. So now his mind's blown. Mind you, he's in the dead heat of that Heisman Trophy race. He's going to New York for the Heisman Trophy presentation. They're asking him all kinds of questions. And he's like, what do I do? Do I tell them that this whole thing was a lie and like she's alive now? Or do I just keep going? Like, it was weighing on him mentally. You could see it, right? Like, he did not play well in the national championship game. He had a lot of other things on his mind. So finally, Deadspin gets a hold of it. And this was another part of the thing that blew my mind, because a lot of what people do, they don't actually think of the repercussions of how it's going to affect an individual. They're just thinking about it from their perspective, right? So Deadspin, gets a hold of it. Somebody sent one of the guys, and he was like a low-level writer at Deadspin. So he was clout chasing, like, yo, this shit came to my inbox. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm not at a high enough level not to follow up and check it. So I'm gonna check this shit out. And so he just did a preliminary search of, Lene, and he couldn't find it other than the fact that she was connected to Manti Te'o. But, independently, separate, there was no recollection of, no records of a Lene, and there's no obituary or anything saying that she died or anything. And so now he was interested. So they got a little team together, and they figured out that, Renai was behind this essentially. And there were people on social media saying, hey, I know for a fact it's Renai. I know he's behind this shit. And so they put the pieces of the puzzle together. It took them a little while, but they figured it out. and they hit Manti Teo up. And I think they hit his dad up, and they couldn't really get them to pick up the phone. They hit Renai up, told them what they were about to do, and they kind of, the courtesy when you're in that field is to let the person that you're about to drop this bombshell on, let them have a chance to speak their piece first. Maybe they can be in on the story, corroborate what's going on, and maybe they could be a part of the article. You want to give them an opportunity to defend themselves before we just drop this steaming pile of shit right on your lap. And so they couldn't get a hold of Manti Teo or his family. I think they did get a hold of his dad, and they were like, man, get out of here, whatever the case may be. They didn't want to get beat to the story. So they tried to give, enough time, but they said, we can't sit on this anymore. We got to put this thing out there. So they hit the button. All right. And they released the story. Now, here's the thing. When Deadspin did this, they weren't trying to go after Manti Teo and prove that he was a fraud. They could care less about Manti Teo. That was not their agenda. Their agenda was to get after ESPN and all of these big major media outlets that ran with this story, didn't do their homework, didn't fact check, and got. And they wanted to shit on ESPN. They weren't looking to shit on Manti Teo. They were looking to go after ESPN and make them look foolish. Like he said, the whole existence of Deadspin was to stick it to the big major media outlets, especially the 4-letter. And when they put that Manti Teo thing out, it did the opposite. Nobody cared that that ESPN had put out this story and that they were wrong and they didn't have the right times or dates or anything, and that this person was a figment of Manti Teo's imagination, essentially. They could care less about that. Nobody was attacking ESPN, which is what Deadspin wanted. They went after Manti Teo. And so it's just crazy how Deadspin's initial purpose for putting that article out was to go after ESPN, to say, hey, ESPN, there's some clowns. You shouldn't be following them. Okay. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't fact check their sources. They just run with stuff. And it ended up being all about Manti Teo. And not only did it take Manti Teo, shake him at his core, but it dropped his draft stock. This was a top 10 NFL pick, more likely than not. If not top 10, definitely top 20. And he goes from being a first-round pick, and first-round money hits different than second round or third round. And I don't have to explain to you money, right? One of the funny things about Hard Knocks is when you go up and you have to do your spiel in front of the team. First thing you have to do, say your name, school you went to, and a signing bonus that you signed for. And the difference between what Aiden Hutchinson signed for and what the kid that they took in like the 6th round signed for, ridiculous. Aiden Hutchinson's signing bonus was like $30 million. Like, granted, he was the second pick in the draft. And the other guy's signing bonus was like $15K, 65K or something like that. I mean, it's pennies compared. So when you think about the amount of money he lost by not being a first-round pick because of this whole situation, insane. And then not only did it affect him in his wallet, he also then had this mental block that he had to overcome as a football player. And it took him like 3 or 4 years of his career to figure out what was wrong with him to then go out and be able to play loose and free. Shit was crazy, And with catfishers, a lot of times, if you've ever watched Catfish, and I know the easy thing to say is you should have met the person you should have met the other individual in person. Like, to me, a dead giveaway. And you got to remember, okay, like we're much more savvy and we have much more information on what catfishers are, how they operate, things of that nature. More resources so that you can protect yourself against people that are trying to catfish you. That was back in 2012. Catfishing wasn't even a thing in 2012. Like, if it was in the infant stages. So you didn't even really know. And he continued to express that. Like, I didn't even know the term catfishing until my cousin, who's a lawyer, told me that, bro, you're getting catfished. That was the first time. And this was at the very end of that whole ordeal. That's the first time he even heard the term catfishing. Now, if you try to hit somebody up on FaceTime and they're like, oh, my phone's broke, bullshit. Okay. The first time we try to link via, FaceTime, Google Duo, or something like that, and you come with some bullshit ass excuse, oh, my phone's broke, I got terrible reception, catfish, I'm done with you. Like, that's a dead giveaway. I'm trying to meet up with you. Oh, man, I'm sorry. My uncle died. I got to go to. There's always some excuse we can't meet. Catfishing. It's easy to see now. But in 2012, it wasn't as easy. Okay. And his cousin vouched for Lene's, being like, hey, this is a real person. I met her before. I know she exists. So, yeah, that's a tough one, man. That's a real tough one there. It was a hell of a documentary. The lengths that Renai went through to keep Manti Te'o engaged, but also believing that she was real, unbelievable. Unbelievable. And you know what else was crazy is me and my wife thought, because we've watched a ton of Catfish, we thought, okay, must have had somebody else helping her, like, because she can't do a female voice, right? And lo and behold, the female voice, because we heard like messages that he would send to Manti, and Manti obviously was talking to a female on the phone, wasn't talking to a dude this entire time. And so I'm thinking either she's got one of those voice, changing things, devices, or she's got somebody else in on it with her. And this entire time, it wasn't any of that. He could actually change his voice into sounding like a straight female. Unbelievable. There were so many twists and turns and plots to this thing that it was ridiculous. Anyway, that thing was crazy. I hope you got to watch it. If you are out there and you want to comment on any of the stuff that we've talked about, college football, Manti Te'o, I'm about to get into Hard Knocks real quick. Please either use the super chat function. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and put that on the screen real quick. Or use the hashtag LouieTLive, and I'll get to as many of those as I can. Anyway, Hard Knocks. Watched all 5 episodes. I'll just quick synopsis. It was cool. Dan Campbell's a good dude. This Lions team, they're hungry. I still think they have some deficiencies. I think one of the biggest takeaways, Aiden Hutchinson, I watched him in the preseason, so I already knew this. He's going to be really good. And he reminded me of when Chase Young was a rookie, and not because of his play. He's more like the Bozas than he is Chase Young. It just reminded me of how excited I was. Like, Lions fans are really excited about Aiden Hutchinson, and they should be. Guy's going to be a stud for them. It just reminded me, though, of how excited I was when we got Chase Young as a Commanders fan. I just want that back. Like, I want Chase Young to come back, be healthy, and be that guy again, because it changes everything when you got one of those dogs on the defensive side of the football, specifically at defensive end. It changes everything. Another takeaway was they found this guy, Rodrigo, in the 6th round, and I'm thinking to myself, we can't find a guy at linebacker. They find this guy in the 6th round, and he's a dog. This Rodrigo is. Now, again, we're going to see. Preseason is one thing, but he looks the part. The mental makeup, how he plays the game, how he approaches it. And I'm like, damn, we can't find a guy. And they finding dogs in the 6th round. And I want to see how he plays. He'll be a guy that I follow to see if he's any good or not. And another takeaway was it doesn't matter how many times you cut a dude, it never gets any easier. Like, that's the part of the job that really sucks. And that never, I think, is something that they become jaded by. And he's like, once you get to a point where that doesn't affect you, you probably need to step away. It's hard cutting, 27 dudes in a day, and they had to make a decision on the running back. And, I was pulling for it. I don't know if you guys remembered that the running back that made the team, that third and final running back, played with Washington. His first team in the league was with Washington. And so I was rooting for him. I remembered him being on Washington's roster back in like 2019. I think it was his rookie season, and getting an opportunity in camp. And I remember us saying, hey, that guy's not half bad. He's not good enough to play on this team in particular. And we sucked in 2019, but we still had Adrian Peterson and we had, a couple of other dudes. So we weren't like hurting at running back necessarily. But if I'm not mistaken, Geis was still around. And as a matter of fact, I think that was his rookie season as well. So he wasn't going to make our team, but I was like, that guy, there's a little something there to him. It was good to see him make the team. But it's just crazy when they tell you, and football is such a harsh sport, and they tell you, hey, you did everything. Like, if I'm a player and I'm getting cut, I don't want to hear you did everything right. There's nothing else you could have done. And the two things I don't want to hear, hey, man, you did everything right. And then I ask you, what else could I have done, coach? What could I have done better? Nothing. You did everything right. Everything we asked you. You just had a meeting preaching that you want guys that are going to be consistent, that do everything the right way. And here you are telling me I did everything the right way and you don't have a roster spot for me. And the other phrase I can't stand is, man, it was a numbers game. You just got caught up in it. Like, I don't want to hear that shit. If I'm a player, spare me. Just tell me I wasn't good enough. Just tell me I wasn't good enough and I'll be on my way. And it sucks. Like, certain dudes deserve to be cut. Like the receiver that ended up latching on with the Giants. He dropped like 18 passes. His ass deserved to be cut. The tackle that just started playing football 7 years ago that went to Memphis, he deserved to be cut. He's still raw. But they want him back on the practice squad. But there's some dudes out there where you get cut and you're just like, damn. Like the dude, Tom Kennedy, he shouldn't have been cut. Now, I don't know the depth of the Lions receiver room and how much talent that they have, but that guy did everything right. And Dan Campbell sat there and was like, bro, you did everything we asked you to do and then some. You were phenomenal. But you're not tall enough, probably not fast enough. And so, got to go in a different direction. And that's facts. I can live with that. That shit sucks, though. That shit sucks. But all in all, it was a solid Hard Knocks. It was better than last year's with the Dallas Cowboys. But it wasn't great. It wasn't, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love his dad. Talking. He said, ask KD if he knows what a calf raise is. He said, all these guys out here tearing their Achilles, this, that, and the third. Ask KD if he knows what a calf raise is. Shit. Excuse me. Now, he is 2 times Mr. Universe. I ain't going to say shit to him. But damn. I mean, why KD catching strays? He ain't do nothing. Anyway, I digress. It was solid, man. It was good to see Eminem, all that good old stuff. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section real quick. See if there's anything out there. See if you guys have anything to say, anything to add to what I just said before we wrap up this show. One final thing before I get to your comments. I know y'all see the championship strap behind me. It's not mine. I can't brag and be braggadocious this year and talk about how it's going to stay where it belongs. I got to go out and get that. Carmen Rana right now is the champ. He didn't claim the belt, right? So it's still in my possession, but it's been vacated essentially. So it's up for grabs again. I'm trying to grab both the straps. That's going to be, the strap from last year. Look at it like this. In boxing, there's the WBO, WBC, WBA, all that. So you can get multiple straps. That's what the situation is this year. Winners and losers champ is going to get not one, but 2 straps. That one from last year and the one from this year. I'm out for blood, man. I'm thirsty. I'm I am chomping at the bit to get this thing started because last year left a bad taste in my mouth. You got one more day to sign up. I love the responses that we've been getting. Been an outpour of so many of you joining up for winners and losers, Soul Survivor pool, even the weekly pick'em pools getting a little bit of traction. So I love it. You've got another day before we shut it down. So if you're interested, the links are in the comment section or the description to this video. I've put out several videos already. You got any questions, comments, concerns, hit me up. There's so many ways you can do that. LouieTeeNetwork@gmail.com. You can hit me up in the comment section of this video. You can hit me on socials at LouieTeeNetwork on Twitter, LouieTeeNetwork _ on IG. Either way, I'll see it. And if you need help, I can walk you through it, tell you what you need to do. But you still have a chance to get in if you're interested. 12 o'clock noon tomorrow is the cutoff for the Winners and Losers League and for the Soul Survivor pool. But if you want to on the weekly pick'em, that is up until 8 o'clock, which is right on the tip of kickoff. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. We started off with the Phillies Ace 34. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. The Phillies Ace 34 writes, Louie T, what's good, my brother from another mother? What's good with you, man? Good to hear from you as always. You know, I will always have your back, but take that Braves hat off. Y'all are going to crush the Jags, so my Eagles need to beat the Lions. Cowboys stink. I wish I had your confidence in terms of crushing the Jags. I think we can beat the Jags, but I don't know if a crushing of the Jags is going to take place. This Braves hat, it means more today than it did a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because my boys are playing outstanding baseball. We have knotted it up at 84 and 51 with the Mets. And if you even, we leaving. And so I'm ready to take over that division and run and lead the Mets and put them in second place where they belong. You, my friend, need to worry about holding on to that third wild card spot, okay? Because y'all over there tripping. So find a way to hold on to that third wild card spot so you can get into these playoffs, make things interesting. But in any event, you get the Jags, if I'm not mistaken, early in the season as well. But we get the Lions leftovers. Whatever you do to them, we get the leftovers in week 2. So whatever you got to do what you got to do to those boys. And I hope you serve them up on a platter for us in week number 2. The Phillies Ace 34. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. The Phillies Ace 34, who writes, Lou, hope your family is well. Likewise to you and yours. He says, tell your kids their uncle will have them root for all Philly teams because I can teach them how Philly culture is. Even the Braves, fly Eagles fly, Super Bowl this year, don't hate. First of all, I will never allow my kids to root for any Philadelphia teams. That will not happen. I can't dictate what they'll root for in any other sport, but football, they will be Commanders fans. They could be whatever baseball team they want to root for, knock yourself out. Same with basketball. I won't put that on them. But football, that's not optional. It won't be a situation like me where everybody in my house is essentially Cowboys fans, and then I got a sister that's a Falcons fan, and I somehow turned out to be a Redskins fan. That's not going to happen with me. Either you're not going to like football and you don't care, you don't even know the team's names. If you do like football, you're a Commanders fan. And I hate to put that on my kid, but I don't. Anyway, I digress. Once again, got another super chat here from Big Money Sonny. My guy, Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, season taking too long to start. We clapping gorilla booty cheeks all season long. Can't wait. Let's get it. I can't wait either, man. It feels like this week has, and actually I like the fact that this weekend was moving in slow motion. But once the week started, I wanted it to speed up, but it seems like the week itself is moving in slow motion. But I feel good. Tomorrow is Thursday. We get football. And once that game takes place, the seal is popped on the season, and there's no turning back from that point forward. And I think it's just going to fly at that moment. Like, we're so excited, and we're talking about that it's taking too long. And then watch, we'll get into this thing, and we'll look up, and it'll be week 9. We'll be like, God damn, half the season's gone. This shit need to slow the hell down. So I'm not rushing it anymore. Now that it's right here and we're on the doorstep, I can wait a few more days until Washington kicks it off against Jacksonville. But I don't want to rush it. I want to enjoy. I want to savor it because I know how this thing works. it'll be, before you know it, it'll be November, and we'll be talking about half the season in the rearview mirror already. So anyway, I digress. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Big Money Sonny, who writes, Lou, keep it real. Manti Te'o was a sucker. I mean, there are people out there that feel that way about Manti Te'o. Like, he, didn't do his due diligence, allowed somebody from afar to get him. I never met this person, didn't see their face in person, had chances to FaceTime them, and things went awry, and it never really took the hint. But again, in 2012, I could see how that could happen. Again, I'm more of a traditionalist. I want to meet somebody in person. I'm not meeting people on dating apps, because you can lie about who you are and what you look like and all that stuff. I want to meet somebody up close and personal. I want to know who I'm dealing with. And if you are on the internet, all bets are off. Anybody can portray themselves as, what they want themselves to be, whatever they envision themselves being in their head, they can portray that online. And he got. I'm not going to lie and sit here and act like he didn't get got. He got, but I can sympathize with him. I really can. All right. Or excuse me, I can empathize. I can't sympathize. I haven't gone through that, but I can have empathy for him. I truly can. And I think a lot more people have empathy for him now after seeing that documentary than they did when it first happened, when people were judgmental, pointing the finger. They were harsh and cruel with Manti Te'o. Some of the comics of him, arm around nobody, and like, they were really, really mean. And I think that's what I've kind of talked about. Like, Deadspin, when they put that article out, that wasn't their intent to go after Manti Te'o. Their intent was to go after ESPN, but what they didn't anticipate was that ESPN was going to be absolved of any wrongdoing, and everybody was just going to go straight to Manti Te'o and talk about what a fool he was, and he's a liar, and then people thought he was complicit and that he had something to do with it, and he's a clown, just like you're thinking he's a sucker. A lot of people thought that back in 2012, into 2013. So it's a lot, man. It was a lot. He didn't do enough due diligence himself, but that's tough, man. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Big Money Sonny, writes, more real talk. You got to be real effed up as an individual to pull some flim flam on someone like that. How Renai didn't serve any time, that she respectfully showed zero remorse. Again, Te'o equals sucker. Look, I don't know if jail time is because technically you didn't do anything wrong other than play with someone's emotions. Like, you didn't actually break any laws, because you can do whatever the hell you want to do on the internet as long as you stay within the framework of the law. He just lied to somebody and kept that lie going. He didn't extort Manti Te'o for any money or anything like that. So again, there was no legal recourse to take. It's just, you say that you have to be an effed up individual, and I somewhat agree with that. But at the same time, Renai had a lot going on, and Renai couldn't live in her truth. So there was a lot there. As much as I would like to feel empathy for Renai, I just can't, because of what kind of pain Renai inflicted on Manti Te'o. Like, it's one thing to be going through something and not be able to express yourself and feel like you're trapped in a different body than where you really truly belong. But to suck somebody into your world and drag them through the mud like he did Manti Te'o, or she did Manti Te'o, it's hard for me to be on your side after you do something like that. And that's the part that's just crazy. It's so many. That's why I said this thing is so complex. There's so many different layers to this. All right. And so you could be on either side of that. It's hard. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Big Money Sonny, writes, my uncle taught me 3-card Monty at the age of 6. From that point on, I could see suckers miles and miles away. That was 41 years ago. Come on, Lou. I hear you, bro. I hear you. I'm not telling you Manti Te'o is absolved from wrongdoing. He allowed himself to be drugged in this situation for far too long. He didn't ask enough questions. He didn't do enough. He could have easily taken a trip out to California and put put this shit to bed. Okay. After one of these seasons at Notre Dame, when he was adamant about meeting, I ain't trying to hear this shit. I'm coming to California. We got to meet up. If we don't meet up, I'm done with you. He could have done that, but he didn't. And you know, this is what happens to nice guys. Manti Te'o's a really nice dude. Very religious, really nice. And you know what? Sometimes nice dudes get taken advantage of. And I can sympathize with that, being a nice guy. I've been taken advantage of before. And that's what turned me cold. I became a totally different dude after people started taking my kindness for weakness. So I can definitely sympathize with being taken advantage of because you're too nice. And he was too nice to end this thing when he should have. Let's see. Got another super chat. This is from Joe Rockhead J. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Joe Rockhead J. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Louie T, how you be? I'm good, man. I'm good. He says, I submitted my picks for winners and losers this evening. This is my first time, and I'm looking forward to it. All my life, I wanted money and power. K. Lamar. Well, you got a chance to get it, man. With that championship strap comes a lot of money and a lot of power. And if you wield it right, there's a lot of shit talking opportunities for you for the next 6 months after the season's done. So there will be an opportunity there. And I appreciate you for joining Winners and Losers. And I look forward to taking your money. I look forward to beating you and probably 30, 40 other individuals. I'll see what the head count is when it's all said and done. Feels like we have a chance to set a new high for how many people are involved. So that's great. But whatever the case may be, I'm looking forward to smashing all comers this year in Winners and Losers. But welcome aboard, Joe Rockhead J. Really, truly appreciate you joining in on the fun. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Red Wings 01 writes, the Mike Jaricki drama. I think more important than him being a clown is how this was reported by Bleacher and NFL Network. The amount of misinformation spewed about our team is baffling, especially Chase Young's injury. That's the part I want to touch on. That's the part I want to touch on later on tonight. But since you super chatted about it, I'll just say this. That's the part about this that was so mind-boggling. You could get one rogue reporter that's chasing clout and have him put out some misinformation and have him try to have something blow up, a tweet blow up, and have his name surface out there. That happens all the time. People are always chasing clout on social media. But for the major, entities to jump on board with that, like Bleacher Report, that's dumb. And I got a lot to say about that. So I'm right there with you, Red Wings 01. That's negligence on their part. But you know what? When it comes to the Commanders, / football team / Redskins, this is the shit I expect. We are looked at as the low rent and bottom feeders. And we are somewhat low rent. What we've been in the past, what Daniel Snyder continues to be, having shadow investigations and intimidating witnesses so that they don't come forward. Like, that's the shit that makes people abhor our franchise and feel like that we're gross and grotesque, and they despise us. And so it's easy to shit on Washington, even if you don't have all the facts. Who cares anyway? Even if we're wrong, it's Washington. It's not New England. It's not Green Bay. Who cares if you're wrong? It's Washington. People will believe it even if it's not true. Anyway, I digress. Edward, Washington, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, my guy. Edward writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Edward? What's your take on Jackson State's short-term, long-term impact on college football? So Jackson State is interesting. My wife is like, Florida State effed up. They should have gave Deion the job. And I'm like, we'll see. I love what he's done for the program. He's put them on the map. Like, when was Jackson State and what they do against FAMU in week 1 of the college football season ever a thing? Like, nobody cares about HBCU and what they're doing out there until Deion showed up and made it a thing and made them important and got them sponsored by I think they're sponsored by Under Armour, and and change the way that people view that program and view some of these HBCUs. He's gotten them their own combine, and so he's brought a lot of awareness to those HBCUs. And I still don't know what kind of an impact they're going to have on college football, because until they start playing bigger schools, this isn't college basketball. You don't get a chance to prove that you belong by just getting into the field of 64 and beating teams and getting an opportunity to play against a Big Ten team or a Pac-12 team or an SEC team. You don't get to do that in football. And if they think your team is good, if I'm Michigan, I'm not paying Jackson State to come to the big house and potentially beat me. You crazy? Deion's over here recruiting his ass off. You can get me to pay Jackson State enough money to come play me. There's no winning if I'm Alabama. I can't win playing Jackson State. I'm supposed to beat them. And if I don't, I just got embarrassed. So I don't know what kind of impact they can truly have on college football, because if Deion's building a bully out there, he's got to first destroy the MEAC. He's got to destroy the MEAC and anybody in his way first, just to even get on the map, right? Like, they're on the map, but in a way that people are actually taking notes and paying attention. His son started the game 17-17, had 3 incompletions, threw for well over 330 yards and like 5 touchdowns. I think he accounted for 6 in the game. Oh, that's cool. It's still FAMU. I don't care. Like, most people don't care. It's still FAMU. So, again, it's going to take a lot to change the perception, right? But I love what he's doing. And the key is, if Deion's serious, he can't leave Jackson State 3 years from now for a job at a Power 5 school. Or will there even be a Power 5 in 2-3 years from now? Or will it just be like 2 conferences, 2 super conferences? I don't know. He can't leave Jackson State. If he's going to build a bully, he's got to build the bully. But it's hard, man, because at some point you get tired of getting shit on. I mean, they didn't even have, clean running water or bottled water at Jackson State. I mean, that's tough. Anyway, we'll see what happens. The Phillies Ace 34. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, let's sing Fly Eagles Fly. Dak overrated. Sorry. You know I ain't singing that shit. It's bad enough. I always say Fly Eagles Fly, But I'm not saying that. Ethan Dykes. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ethan writes, why not Cam at nickel or Shaka at Sam? Ron preaches flex, but I feel like they misuse or underuse a lot of our guys. Shout out to ODU. Suck it, Tech. I mean, I don't think that, first of all, Cam Curl is not a true nickel. I can tell you that right now. He's a Buffalo nickel. You can get away with him in certain instances, but you can't just put him in the slot against Cooper Kupp. I've seen that movie before. Cooper roasted his ass when we played the Rams in Cam's rookie season. He roasted his ass. I don't want to see that movie over again. So I don't think you could just put guys anywhere because they're athletes. Like Shaka Toney can't just play Sam, because he's an athlete. I think, there's a certain, amount of skills that go into that and certain things you have to be able to do. And not everybody's capable of doing those things on a consistent basis. So we'll see what happens. Anyway. Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. My guy, Big Money Sonny writes, Lou, this is one for Condo P because she had us rolling in the Discord last night. What's up with Bruce testifying for damn near 12 hours and looking like Nino Brown in New Jack City? Squad salutes. Hey, Bruce he felt some type of way because Dan, you remember what happened when Bruce got fired? Dan tried to dump all the shit on Bruce's lap, like everything that went on was Bruce's fault. So Bruce is in his feelings right now. He went in that room to testify and got in his pocket. He was in his pocket for damn near half a day. Was like, yeah, I'm about to tell all the shit I know. All right. If there's one person with enough shit to probably bury Dan Snyder, it's Bruce Allen. He know a lot of shit. I don't know if he's willing to tell all of it or not, but he was in there for a mighty long time. A mighty long time. I will say that. So I'll tell you this much. He said a lot. The question is, What he said, was it important or was it interesting? That's the key. Anyway, I digress. All right, let's get out of here and transition to our final segment of the show and garbage time. So, football is upon us. Tomorrow marks the start of the 2022 NFL season. Bills at Rams. This is one of the best Thursday night kickoff games we've seen, along with Cowboys Bucks last year, which was epic, that we've seen in a while. Normally you get the shit we got 2 years ago. Chiefs and Texans. It's raining. It's wet. Sloppy game. Garbage, right? Snooze fest. That's usually what you get on that Thursday. It's usually not a super competitive game. It's rare that the banner dropping team, because that's banner night for the Super Bowl winning team. It's rare that they lose that game. I don't think we've seen a loser in that game since the Chiefs went into Foxborough and beat the Pats. I want to say after that 18 season when they beat the Rams in one of the sleepiest Super Bowls in recent memory, 13-3. That next year they kicked off the season. They played the Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say that was the 2019 season, after the 18 Super Bowl. And the Chiefs went in there, put a 40 burger on their head. It was a coming out party for Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt. That was his rookie season, went off. And if I'm not mistaken, that was his rookie season. And they put a 40 spot and beat the Patriots in Foxborough. I think that's the last time we've seen a team that won the Super Bowl drop the banner and get an L in the same night. It doesn't happen very often. I think that shit's about to happen. Yeah, on tomorrow. And my barber is a Rams fan. You guys know that. And he hit me up yesterday, and I told him flat out, "Hey, y'all about to lose." And he was like, "Bet 200 jumping jacks." That's his thing. He like to bet jumping jacks. I was like, I want them shits on site. I walk in the shop. I want you to stop cutting hair, and I want my 200 jumping jacks. I want them shits on site, bro. And so he's like, "Bet." All right. I want my shits on site. I'm talking about I walk through the door. You see me. You know I'm coming. I got an 11 o'clock appointment. I walk in the door 10:58. I don't care if you just finished somebody's shit. I want my 200. Cut the clippers off. I want my 200 right now. Stat. If the Bills are relatively healthy and they look like they're getting most of their guys back, sounds like Jordan Poyer is going to play in this game. It sounds like the Rams are going to have most of their guys back in this game as well. They had a couple of running backs down due to soft tissue injuries. Cam Akers was one of them. Sounds like he's going to play in this game. I don't think they're going to have the wide receiver who had, not mistaken, had surgery over the offseason. I forgot his damn name. Van Jefferson. I don't think they're going to have him. But I do think they're going to have most of their guys. Stafford is supposed to play this game without any limitations. That's good news there because he was dealing with some shoulder issues over the offseason. So by all accounts, all parties are going to be accounted for and ready to rock and roll when Thursday night rolls around. I look at the Bills and I look at that offense, and if they can protect, and I know it's a tall order to protect against Aaron Donald, for 4 quarters. But Jalen Ramsey can get cooked. We saw him getting cooked in the Super Bowl by Jamar Chase. I look at Diggs and I say Diggs could do the same thing. And even if it ain't Diggs, they still got Gabe Davis, who's a beast. They got Jamison Crowder, who's nasty. They got weapons, man. They got stuff. And then they got all these running backs out of the backfield that can catch it. They got Dawson Knox. I just talked about him getting a big deal. It's just too many weapons, man. And Josh Allen's on another level right now. If he's not top 3 in this league, he's the 4th best quarterback. I think he's top 3 right now. After you get through Rodgers and Mahomes, I think Allen is the next dude right now for me. And I think it'd be really hard to have a top 5 looking at the way Justin Herbert looks and not putting him in that discussion. But Allen is that dude right now. Like, I think he's the next guy to win the MVP at the quarterback position. So I thought if you're going to win the MVP, it starts week 1 against the defending Super Bowl champions. I've long said that the Rams don't actually have a true home field advantage because they play in LA, but LA is the ultimate bandwagon town. It's the ultimate bandwagon city. And when you're winning, everybody's out and they grinning. They on the sidelines, they kikiing, the stars come out. We saw it in the Super Bowl last year. LeBron and everybody was there. Snoop Dogg, was there. You see all of the stars come out when you win. That's how LA is set up. So when the Dodgers are good, they're number one out there, right? When the Lakers are good, everybody's at the Lakers game. When they suck, nobody's at the Lakers game. The Angels are about to go up for sale. Why? Because they suck. If they're good, everybody's at Angels games. Okay. It's just how it goes in LA. So now that these Rams are good, I could see it being a packed house, and I could see it being a ton of Rams fans supporting them. Now the Chargers are going to have to earn it. I don't think they're going to get the same love the Rams are getting. But at the end of the day, I think that the Bills are the superior team, top to bottom, talent-wise. They're hungry. They want what the Rams have. And I think that they're going to make a statement in this game. They're going to go out there and they're going to put up, 30-plus points on that Rams defense, and they're going to win that football game. And I think they're going to win that game 33-27. I think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be competitive. But I just think it's going to be too much Josh Allen. I just think it's going to be. Now, I can tell you this. If they can't find a way to protect him from Aaron Donald, if Aaron Donald is tearing through double teams, Josh Allen is still the same Josh Allen that'll fumble that bitch on you. He'll have that thing out here with one hand, holding it around, and then somebody will come from behind and knock it out. He's still that same dude that'll put it on the carpet. But if he's able to get outside that pocket and break, contain, and extend, they're in trouble. And so I see this game going the way of the the Buffalo Bills. I got the Bills winning this game 33-27. I think it's going to be a phenomenal football game. I couldn't think of a better way to start off the 22 NFL season than with this game right here. Kickoff weekend is going to be epic. I already talked about the 3 matchups on primetime television. The last one isn't as juicy as it is. Hey, Russ is going home. They should cheer him. He should get a standing ovation. I could see him getting booed there, but the fans of Seattle seem like they're classy enough that they're going to give him some love. We'll talk about that on Monday before that game takes place. We'll be back on Monday for that. But I got the Rams losing this game, being, the first team to drop the banner and drop the game since, I think, I could be wrong about this, but the Pats in 2019 to start off that season. So I got the Bills going in there, setting the tone and making a statement. I talked about earlier in the show how they're the Super Bowl favorites. They're going to show you exactly why in this football game. Give me the Bills on the road to dispatch of the Los Angeles Rams. And keep in mind that Matthew Stafford was one of the league leaders, if not the league leader in the league in interceptions last year. Let's not act like Matthew Stafford all of a sudden. I think he just punched his ticket to Canton with the Super Bowl victory, but let's not act like he's all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers now. He's still Matthew Stafford, okay? I don't know if the Super Bowl changes his swag at all, and all of a sudden now he starts playing at a much higher level, but I'm not buying it. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I am going to glide to the side and allow you guys to enjoy whatever it was you were doing before I rudely interrupted your evening. I look forward to chopping it up with you, Washington fans, or anybody that wants to come and kick it with us later on tonight for Commanders Nightly News Live. But we'll be back on Friday. We will break down that Thursday night game, talk about the leftovers, and we will preview week 1. Oh, my God, I can't believe I'm saying that. Bart Scott, can't wait. I cannot believe it. It is you. It is here, the NFL season. So with that said, I got one more super chat on the way out from Joe Rockhead J. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Joe Rockhead J, who writes, Bruce Allen, a.k.a. Thomas J. Lipton. Boy, that Lipton is hot. It may be hot. You might have to sip it slow. All right. But Thomas J. Lipton might have been out there spilling the tea, man. We'll see. Again, interesting versus important. We'll find out soon enough which of it was it? So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. You guys get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. God bless and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.